Every person in this room makes dozens of choices every day. Some are small, some are meaningful, but all of them carry a reason behind them. Ethics is the name we give to the process of understanding those reasons. We tend to think ethics belongs in textbooks or debates, but it appears in everyday life more than we realize. I want to invite you to a moment that changed how I see the world. It began when I decided to participate in something called the Ethics Olympiad. It was not a typical academic challenge. There were no formulas to memorize, no unit tests waiting at the end. Instead, it opened the door to a kind of learning I never expected to see. When I first entered the room, I thought ethics was just choosing right over wrong, something we all hear about but rarely stop to examine. But that day, I learned ethics is not simple at all. It is a way of thinking that grows every time you question something you thought you understood. The competition wasn't made up of multiple choice questions or debate arguments, but rather questioning and commenting on others' claims. It forced us to look at things in ways we haven't yet, and dive deeper into the problems. The problems we faced were not the kind you find in textbooks. They didn't ask for answers. Instead, they asked for our questions. They came from news stories, daily life, friendships, technologies, and choices people make, even without noticing. And what surprised me the most was how each team saw the exact same scenario and thought of something completely different. Imagine sitting at a table with people who interpret the same situation in entirely different ways. At first, it feels confusing. Then, it becomes powerful, because when you hear the reasoning behind views that are not your own, your thinking begins to stretch. I remember realizing that I was learning something that academics almost never teach. I was learning how to think with people, not against them. A reason why I enjoyed learning ethics in my club and preparing for this competition so much was that it wasn't just writing speeches or figuring out answers, but discussing and going against others, including your own team. For example, one of our cases involved whether it would be ethical for a person to write a letter to their family using AI. My friend argued that if the person had been struggling writing letters, then they could use a little help from AI. I refuted by saying it wouldn't be her own words, and that it's not she could ask a friend. None of us were right or wrong, even when it was about the very idea of being right and wrong. This is precisely what ethics teach, letting you consider different aspects and perspectives of a problem. Ethics asks you to stop and think before you act. It asks you to consider the stakeholders, who might be hurt, who might be helped, and why you are choosing what you choose. In business, you must consider the social and environmental effects, not just profit. In science, you must look at long-term consequences, not just immediate results. I used to believe ethics was too big or too complicated for daily life. Now, I think the opposite. Ethics matters because it appears in these small moments. The way you speak, the way you treat others, even the way you handle responsibility. Of course, this was team sport too, and they ran into conflicts. But learning ethics helped us go through problems and overcome challenges to complete the competition in the end. The Ethics Olympiad was my chance to beat the odds in a way I never expected. It was not about speed, talent, or perfect answers. It was not about listening, questioning, or understanding people who think differently. Those skills are rarely taught, yet they gave me a kind of strength that academics alone cannot offer. So, what did the competition teach me? It taught me that learning does not only come from reading, memorizing, or solving problems. Sometimes it comes from sitting in a circle with people who challenge you to think differently. It taught me that asking a good question is often better than giving a fast answer. Most of all, it taught me that ethics matters, not because it gives us rules, but because it gives us a way to understand ourselves, the world, and each other. In school, we chase the right answer. In ethics, we chase the right question, the right ideas. The world is not a mathematical equation we can simply solve. The world is something we must strive to understand. Today, where a decision could travel around the world in just hours, our odds for harm or good stands at its greatest. So today, I invite you to carry one lesson with you home. Ethics is not about knowing everything, not about being selfless. It is about exploring the questions that shape who you become. If you let yourself ask these questions, you do not just become a better thinker, you become a better human being. Thank you.